Welcome back to the Heroes Global Championship, and we're starting to gear up for our second series of the day, and it should be a pretty good one, man. The hype around the bandwagon as of late has been that Zealots are starting to really get good as a roster, so I'm excited for today.
Yeah, Zealots going up, of course, now against Tricked, and Tricked comes off a victory against TGG just yesterday, but also in our last series we saw Fnatic with a victory against Dignitas. And that puts them in a really good spot when we're talking about BlizzCon again. And to some people that might sound a little bit silly. After all, Fnatic currently sits at a 7-1. But if you think about our phase 1 this year, we had Team Liquid in a very similar position where they didn't, I think they were 11-0 at some point, and then they didn't make it to the mid-season brawl. So there's still a lot that can happen. So this victory against Dignitas was incredibly important for Fnatic, because now even if they end up in a tie situation in matches with Dignitas, thanks to the 2-0 direct comparison, they would pull ahead.
Well, it's time to look at the standings here, and this is why it's so important for those records to be on display here. The top two will be going to BlizzCon, as our third spot will be the one that will be in the playoffs. So you definitely want to make sure you're in that top two if you want to be able to head to BlizzCon. And so far, that 7-1 has given Fnatic a nice little win lead over Tricked Esports right now, which is always nice and cushiony. But of course, there are still 4 more weeks left of play.
And Tricked today could, of course, establish themselves even stronger on that second spot. Now, keep in mind that their start into Part 2, Phase 2 is a little bit easier than what Dignitas currently had to experience here, going straight up against the favorite, of course. But still, let's find out what the Zealots can do here today, because after all, we've seen already some really cool games from the Zealots in the last part of the phase, and they are rumored to constantly improve through scrims, and that's something they could show off today against Tricked.
I hope to see that. Let's go ahead and look at the schedule for what matches will be happening today, in case you want to watch North America, which will be happening later on, and you should, as Roll20 Esports and Tempo Storm will be facing off. Later on the day, Gale Force Esports and Even in Death will finish the day.
And especially Roll20, we talked a lot about the series yesterday when they were going up against Team Freedom. Freedom, of course, hailed as one of the teams, one of the American hopes right now, hopes North America, because they did really well at the Western Clash. But then Roll20 came in, and Glorang, he's been talking quite a lot, especially during the Western Clash, how he feels they are still at least the number 2 in the region, if not the strongest team, and they went out to prove that. And yesterday they did, since they were able to take down Team Freedom without even dropping a map. So going up against Tempo Storm today is also going to be a really exciting game.
And they showed us how scary Garrosh and Dahaka can be. Boy, was that fun to watch. Now, let's go ahead and get ready for our next matchup, as Tricked Esports will be taking on the Zealots, and they're here to share their thoughts.
It's kinda hard to prepare for Zealots, since it's kinda random what the meta is gonna be. And a lot of the series will be very decided on the draft. I think Grandpaquette is a pretty good player, and then they have Pulk, the MVP, and they hope that those two people will carry them, I guess. We have started preparing a bit of cheeses, but generally we wanna be a team that plays good basic cuts, and then the cheeses come second.
The thing is that after the break, we didn't play against Tricked, so we really don't know what they're playing, what's their style now, or what to expect. But what we know for sure is that if we get Alex out of comfort, we can win some games and maybe even win the series, and that's what we will try to do. He's the soul of the team, and if he's down, the team is down. About the metagame right now, Garrosh is a thing, like the throw. I don't even know how to explain it. I don't know if it's broken or not, but it's so fun to watch, and it's not that fun to play against it, because you always feel the pressure of Garrosh pulling you into the enemy team, and that's pretty much the only new thing that we have to watch out.
So will the Zealots play Garrosh today? We will have to see. As of late, Bopsio's been playing the tank role pretty darn well as he continues to improve.
Grandpaquette has a point here, doesn't he? I love watching Garrosh in any kind of competitive match. I absolutely hate seeing him on the other side. So what he was just saying, that it always feels awkward playing against Garrosh because you're afraid of getting pulled in and tossed away. I can only echo that. It's much more fun watching him than playing against him.
Yeah, I think a lot of tanks are going to have to learn that eventually they may have to tank that throw for the team for them to get into the fight. But for now, we're all trying to figure out where Garrosh currently fits in the meta. Let's go ahead and start game number 1 here, the Battleground. Where are we going for our teams? There's definitely a chance that we'll be picking up different Battlegrounds. We've been seeing Dragonshire from Zealots as of late. But first, before we move into the Battlegrounds, let's talk about the cheers for our teams. Right now, the Zealots and Tricked Esports continue to get cheered for. Dace's 1992 at number 1 here for Tricked.
With hashtag Tricked trending currently on Twitter, at least that's what I've heard. I'm actually a little surprised that we're a bit on the lower end with the cheers for the team. So far, these guys have put on quite a show throughout the entire phase, and the team is just like growing together. It's always a pleasure having them in the interviews, since there's a lot of team spirits for Tricked Esports.
They just make me smile, every single one of them. I mean, even Maka yesterday, we didn't get to see him on webcam, but even hearing his voice and how excited he is to be on this roster was quite a treat. Going into the Zealots here, Rambo version 1.
Look at Techa there. I like
Hey.
it. Represent immediately.
Hey, it's your boy Little Helper too, at number 4 here with 2,000 bits.
Seriously, Little Helper is everywhere. Can we just like drop that for a moment? Like, he's awesome.
I think he needs to upgrade to Big Helper.
Big Helper. I actually think a name change would be in order here. But I'd love to see some European support here from our boy Techa over in the UK. And yeah, big shout out to him, of course. And he commentates the Open Division for you guys together with Grubby.
He commentates everything, man. Even the Chinese team with Kendrick as well. All right, so there's the cheers for the day, man. We'll go ahead and keep an eye on those leaderboards and our top 5 cheers. Let's go ahead and now start the series here as we go into our battleground. Game number 1 is going to be on Cursed Hollow.
Cursed Hollow, our first battleground, the map choice of Trick, which leaves us with the first pick on the side of the Zealots. I'm hyped for this. Everybody has been talking about Fnatic and Dignitas today for, I mean, very good reasons. We had a fantastic series, but it's absolutely cool what we're having at the bottom end of the rankings right now, with so many teams trying to get away from the Crucible, and even Tricked Esports could still fall down there. They currently hold the 2nd spot, but you have to also realize that they have a game advantage over a lot of the teams that they're in competition with. So they are still not quite out of that deadly and dangerous zone at the bottom yet, but more so the Zealots. They want to put some distance between them and one of those spots in the Crucible. So let's find out if today they can work towards that goal.
Now, usually you look at this battleground, you talk about globals and how strong they could be. Both these teams feel like they prefer to play a little bit more team-oriented in terms of team fights. Tricked Esports on this battleground, when they get the chance, they usually move into Genji and Gul'dan, so Zealots will have to be aware of that. But on the other side, Zealots, as mentioned in the interview, Grandpa and crew, they're usually drafted around. They try to find a way to give them a chance to be very effective.
Another hero, or another player that I want to point out is Shed. He can play the Vikings.
Best player in the world.
Exactly, that guy. So Shad on Vikings on an Abathar can have a big impact on the game, and this is a very good map for both of these heroes. It's, for example, one of the maps, or the favorite map for Team Liquid to get the Vikings into play. That is something that we at least have to think about here when we're heading into the draft.
Well, Dehaka will be the first choice for the Zealots, so we're going to be having the global pressure coming in from them, and not a bad choice. We saw how powerful this guy can be when Dignitas and Fnatic were fighting over him.
Yeah, and Dehaka, of course, puts also added pressure on a potential Abathar player, so that's something to consider here. But we've been talking a lot about Garrosh, and he has seen more play in the North American HGCs than he did in Europe so far. We had a couple of games yesterday where TGG used him, but the good guys weren't quite as successful with him as they were hoping for. Now, after we've just heard from both of these teams, there's still the question if maybe Tricked or the Zealots are falling back on Garrosh and try to put him into the spotlight.
I do kind of wonder if we'll start to see Garrosh get picked up on the lower end region of the team, simply for the mere fact that you always have the chance of getting that throw that could be enough, pivotal enough for you to get a victory in a team fighter crew. It seems like our top teams are willing to play against that Garrosh, and that's why we haven't seen him yet, but I could see a world where Zealots playing Ducks, even to the good guys, play more and more Garrosh.
Yeah, it could definitely be the case, and we heard in the video that we showed yesterday in particular how a lot of teams compare Garrosh to Stitches to an extent, where they say it's a very similar dynamic that he offers, and this is one of the things that can always bring you back into a game when you land a good hook, or if you are able to get that flip with Garrosh. So for now we are starting things off with Uther and Genji, a Truth and Tried combo on the side of Tricked Esports, the Divine Shield with Dragon Blade to allow the melee assassin to dive deep into their backline. It's something that we've seen from Schwimpy in the last series, but here it is, Shad on the Abathar as expected. Rega and Abathar taken by the Zealots on their second rotation.
But they're having that week 1 through 9. Dehaka kind of offsets that with the ability to soak consistently and be able to help out in the fights if they ever do fight around a tribute. So not a bad draft here for Zealots, and why you see Abathar get picked up on Cursed Hollow. We've been missing him for the last couple of days because every single time that we've come to Cursed Hollow, he's been banned out. So for the first time, he's been left open and available. Now Tricked Esports need to think about how they want to deal with the Abathar. Do they want to be able to force team fights? Do they want to move into a spot where they just control sieging so they can make sure to break through out there before he becomes effective?
At this point, the build is still open. Abathur players. First of all, Abathur is being banned on this map a lot because he's so fantastic here. But we have seen a tendency on the side of the European teams to move farther into the Toxic Nest build, especially if you're trying to slow down rotations. If you don't have Illidan in your setup, that also makes a whole lot of sense. With Illidan, we oftentimes see teams to more so focus on Adrenal Overlord, on trying to just go into the spikes in general, since you will have so much transference and your 16 slow available later on to emphasize those melee assassins even more. But that's something that we have to watch out for. Zealots could go down both these paths. The only build that we don't really see a whole lot is a focus on Beetle, since this is a extremely situational build, the Locust build, and normally it falls short of the power and the impact that the other two builds can have.
Yeah, the only time I've ever seen a Locust build pulled off well is in a super poke-heavy composition where you're sitting on the back line, you're dropping a few beetles here and there just to be annoying, to try to stop your opponent from sieging in, but it is very niche.
It was a really popular build like a long time ago, but right now the only place that I can really see sometimes, and even that is a fringe case, on Towers of Doom if you're not even running a melee assassin. For some reason it's still an extremely popular build in any Hero League game that you see out there, but if you yourself are guilty of that sin, you should probably start to move away from it a little bit.
I think Caldor just told every team that he's played with in Hero League to stop picking the Beetle build in the safest and nicest way possible. I don't think you understand how much of a big feat that is, and he should get kudos. Good job, Caldor. You were nice today. I'm proud of you. Li Ming and Sonya picked up for Trick
Esports. If you would
Esports.
pick up on it.
You got it, man. That was very kind of you. High respect. Good job, man. I'm proud of you.
Do you understand that nobody out there that watches right now does get it?
Yeah,
nobody gets
that. Nobody wins. You went on the diving board and fell off into the pool to be that nice, man. All right, ETC on the 4th side here for the pickup, and Bala for the 5th pickup.
I have to admit that the Trixler Snowflake is starting to rub off on me a little bit. The Care Bear attitude.
I'm not gonna lie, your edginess has rolled off onto me, so you know we're gonna flatten each other out here. My salt levels go up, your sugar level goes up.
Are we having a role swap here? ETC Vala to round out the draft. So in this case, we have Abathur probably committing a bit more to the Toxic Nests. And yeah, ETC is just coming back more and more. And of course, for the Zealots, Mopsio has already shown before the Western Clash how highly he adores that hero. Now, Alex probably going to be on the Sonya on the side of Trick. Then we have Li Ming now. But, I mean, Make on Genji is going to be absolutely fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. Crosby on Li Ming. The main tank, on the other hand, that's now the question. What are we going to see for Rema?
Yep, maybe gonna see another tank for sure, and there it is, that Johanna coming online here for Trick Esports. Johanna helpful against ETC, helpful against the Vala too.
Yeah, against Vala, I like it. It's a good choice here. We've seen JPL do wonders with the hero in the previous series, and now we're seeing Rema Ball on the same.
So it's Cursed Hollow, and we're about to go into it. And normally I look at this draft and just look at the teams and pick up Trick Esports. First off, they've got their Dragon Blade Genji on Make, which is always something that will be dismantling the opposing team. But I'm kind of buying this hype that I've been hearing about Zealots, really putting in the work here and becoming a better team. Mopsio was in chat earlier before the series started, excited for today's matches, ready to show off what him and his team has been working on. So before going into game number 1, man, my judgment is reserved, and I'm excited to just watch.
Yeah, I want to watch this too. I'm a little bit afraid for Zealots though, because the double reset opportunities that we have with Li Ming and Genji, it's something that makes me a bit fearful. And Marco on Genji just absolutely excels. That's definitely what somehow have to deal with. It's going to be a good series for sure. The last time the two teams met, it was a clean 3-0 sweep for Tricked, and this time I expect this to be closer.
The good news for Zealots is that early game they'll be able to handle pretty well, with Li Ming being on the opposing side. Sure, she can siege, but remember, she's not going to burst through a fort too early unless they make a major mistake. So there is a good chance they get to level 10 on even footing against Tricked Esports, which could be a solid moment for them. Getting that Mopsio ETC to move in for the power slide, set up the engagements, Vala to fall up with the strafe, and then the Abathur Ultimate Evolution clone, they can have their team fights. But you are correct. They have to find a way to control that Genji, and so far, even the higher level teams have yet to do so. Let's go ahead and start it up here. Cursed Hollow, game number 1 in the best of 5 series. Tricked Esports taking on the Zealots.
Game number 1. Cursed Hollow is our first map, and to the left we have Knappe on Uther for Tricked Esports. Crosby on Li Ming, Rema Baller plays Johanna. as we are seeing Alex on Sonya, and of course, last but not least, Make on the Genji.
On the right side, in the red, Poik on Vala, Zarmany on Dihaka, Shad on Abathur, Mopsy on ETC, and Grandpa playing Rhaegar.
Yeah, hashtag get tricked. That's what Tricked is always like spamming out here, especially of course when we're talking about Alex, but the Zealots, they are currently in good shape and they want to showcase that. We have Vala with an arrow build, so once again committing to the Monster Hunter on level 1, which allows a bit of a smoother boss control on this map. It's one of the few maps where we don't see the hybrid build with Hot Pursuit into an arrow build that we see, simply because you have more mercenary camps and more boss camps than on any other map, so Monster Hunter gains additional value.
Enhanced agility getting picked up for Dihaka, working on those region globe talents. We did have Trick Esports do a fancy maneuver in the middle where they body blocked their minions to make sure that Zealots couldn't be able to catch them in the middle for a fight if they wanted to move in, but also to keep back that region globe from being available for the team. On the bottom side, Crosby and Nape will be on the offense as they try to deal with Poik and Grandpa, who are pushing in. And Vala in the early game levels can be quite the nuisance if you allow her to push on even footing.
Yeah, she definitely can be. The poke is already annoying enough, but if she's supported then by Rhaegar, that is of course even more so a nuisance. The one thing I want to highlight, we've been talking a lot about Mopsio and his ETC play in the past in particular, and we've oftentimes criticized him for being a bit too eager, trying to drop that mosh pit too hard and really just attempting to force these situations too much and being therefore extremely predictable. But the last few times that we have seen him on the hero, he showed a lot more patience and a lot more discipline, which made him so much more dangerous. So this is something that I'm definitely going to watch out for, if he shows that same discipline and patience that we have seen before the Western Clash, because it made him into a much more dominant and stronger tank for his team, and he posed a huge threat to the opponent.
Yeah, he was playing checkers on ETC, and it was not going too well. Now he's playing 3D chess, learning how to play around. Ooh, hang on, Shad on the bottom may have got caught, and he is dead as Make shows off that Genji.
I like that. I like what he just did here. Let's wait for a second, since all of a sudden Make might be in more trouble than he bargained for. Zarmany nearly with a connect here, but Make gets away. But I really loved how he was just jumping over the wall and was waiting to see, okay, if Abathur is a bit too far out, I'm going to take him. But that simple jump allowed him vision, and he can always just E out, use a swift strike, and that's what he did then in the end. But when he saw he can get a kill and the reset, then he committed to it first. So that was a really cool move on Make's side.
That'll give them an early experience lead. They'll also work on the Giants. The tribute spawns in the bottom, and this works out for Trick while be pushing the top. Now, Zealots do have Dihaka, so you should be able to clear that out, but the name of the game for Zealots should be to delay while you have that Abathur, and they have delay tools. Hungering Hour poke is always good. You have EDC who can walk in and take a little bit of that damage, knock around some opponents. We'll see if they can pull off the delay here.
Yeah, the top,
wait a minute.
It doesn't really look like Trick is even going for a lot of interrupts. They have two heroes still at the top lane. If they can interrupt though, that would be... And they do. This is actually an insane trade for Trick.
This is a good adaptation to what you normally see against Abathur comps.
Oh my god.
Wow. They're going to poke out. They have actually incredible poke between Genji and Li Ming, and they're going to go ahead and commit to the top lane as much as they can. Zealots finally do get the tribute, but look at the experience. It jumps up to 6.5. They've opened up the top wall, and they have nullified what you would normally see from a Dihaka.
Yeah, the problem on the other hand is that the bot lane is now being attacked by 3 heroes, and that's something that the Zealots might not be able to deal with at this point. So, yeah, there we have that push coming in again, and the wall has fallen. So, more or less, Zealots are trying to just negate this little advantage that Trick got, but I really like the move from Trick. That interrupt and simply having the double push going up at the top was pretty sweet.
At the same time, Trick Esports realize they're going to lose the fort, so they attempt to go for experience in the middle instead, breaking down the turret, also getting the fort in the top as they finally do commit. I like how Xaproji sitting in front of that giant. Typically when you're a Dihaka, you try to use, right here actually, you grab the dragon, bring it underneath the fort. They did not allow for that to happen. If he had got to a spot where he got dragged instead of the giant, he had Uth there to heal, and that allowed for them to eventually get to a spot where they could take down the fort. Small little things right there, getting Trick Esports an experience lead.
Yeah, Johanna wanted to try and interrupt the second tribute channel, but wasn't fast enough with the rotation and would have had to venture out a little bit too deep. So right now, Trick is down to tributes, but they are slightly ahead in experience against the Abathur composition. And it looks like Shad is holding back his level 7, probably thinking about a potential mule play.
Will it be enough though, Caldor? Switching out the forts, trading forts overall. Zealots now have 2 of the tributes that you get at 3, which you typically don't see with an Abathur comp. has Trick Esports' adaptation on how you handle Abathur in the early game on Cursed Hollow paid off?
I would say they are trading structures and they're opening the map, so therefore they also make it a little bit more difficult for Abathur to safely soak. But if you think about it, right now we have Trick heading into a way earlier level 10, so they're easily going to take the next tribute. I don't think there's a world in which Zealots are heavily committing to it and are willing to, first of all, commit and then also win, since Abathur won't have his clone ready yet. So they can avoid the curse for now. Question is, can they maybe even force something with level 10? That would be the dream on the side of Trick.
Zealot trying to force a fight in the middle here as they push in with a big mercenary camp, and Rimmer moves forward to clear it out. But this has put Poik in a really weird position. Cleanse being used and he is in trouble. He vaults away trying to keep himself alive. Eventually does fall and Trick Esports gets the kill.
Yeah, gets the kill and we had the resets. I was actually a little bit disappointed that Rema didn't use the Blessed Shield to stop ETC at that point, because I think they could have followed up with another kill.
They could have. But they decided to pull away with the tribute spawning. Grab that instead.
Alex wants leap.
Does he want leap?
He wants it, but he goes with the safe choice, yeah.
Safe choice, and a boss is the next choice.
Alex is such a massive troll. If you've ever watched his stream, like, he really likes to go for that stuff. But of course, in such an important game, he's not going to risk anything there. But it's definitely crossed his mind if he wants to go for some kind of aggression. Against Rhaegar with Cleanse and the Ancestral Healing, though, it makes it a bit harder. But now they commit to the boss. As we said before, the Zealots can do the same thing with Vala going for Monster Hunter on level 1, so it's just an even trade of bosses.
Should be able to get the 4 here on the bottom side. Sonya will make her way towards the top lane as she taps the well here. She'll be able to clear out the side and then deal with that boss. And we're going to have Trick Esports realize their opponents grab the boss, and they're going to take the chance to move ahead and go ahead and come up and defend against that Dahaka, or even force a fight in the middle, actually, as I see Mopsio and crew coming in.
Yeah, and Mopsio now with the stage dive. With Mosh Pit taken as his own heroics, so that's what we've been talking about earlier, that in the past he was a bit too eager to force it, but he seemed to have calmed down a little bit on that and watched way more his positioning, just like using Mosh Pit as a threat. This is one of the cool things about a Mosh Pit, and it's something that if you're a tank player, you need to realize for yourself too. If you have a Mosh Pit, you don't always just need to drop it. Even the threat of you being able to use it will force your opponent to hold a few of their stuns back. If they don't, then you can always slide in and drop it. But holding a Mosh Pit back is always giving you value, because your opponent has to watch their positioning and also which spells they use, or it's going to become their downfall. So forcing it is normally not really the way to go.
Well, Tribute is grabbing second here, and they will have to eventually force the next Tribute and grab it for the curse. Alex approaching and crew would defend the top left. I was going to ask you here, looking at Li Ming, she's moved into the Charge Blast instead of the Dominance that you normally see at the level 4. What do you think of that choice?
I mean, Crosby is pretty good on the hero. If you get all the damage in, then you can basically just simply one-shot. If he at any point gets a drop against Vala, especially if there's an early stun, with, for example, Blessed Shield into Luther stun and he gets a good volley off, then you can more or less one-shot someone. So at that point, Crosby, I like the move. I like the risk. Trying to just saying, hey, I can one-shot them, and if we, for example, eliminate Vala out of that equation, we have a fantastic shot at winning the team fight, since Vala is the only range damage that Zealots currently have in their setup. Yeah,
I think it's good against Abathur comps in particular. You're trying to get to those 5v4s right away, you get a kill at the beginning of the fight, and if you get the kill right away, the ultimate evolution becomes completely taken out of the fight.
It's also, with a lot of close cooldowns, you usually know where your opponent is positioned, so just firing away here can net you a lot of value, even if you don't use it as a follow-up on a stun. Good dodge, by the way. Marker with a Swift Strike, moving out of the drag, so Zarmany can't connect. Also, Poik not getting his arrows in at this point. He's at 50 extra damage, so he has a couple of stacks available, and he has a double 13 dropping on both sides.
Well, it's curse time here for either team. Whoever grabs this tribute, Nabe's working on it. Zarmany was coming in, but decided to pull away as Zealots make the decision not to fight. Didn't know where Johanna was, and Trick Esports will get the first curse of the game.
They go in with a flank, Dragon Blade and the Divine Shield as they move in for Grand Paquetto on Rhaegar. He drops the heals. Here's the Mosh Pit. Well played, even cleansed afterwards, and Mopsio is still alive. Knappe goes down, and we have Genji already fallen. Zealots with great coordination, as they are the ones that are being chased, but they turn it around.
And incredible mosh pit there, but not enough as Crosby starts to get the resets. 2 get picked off, and the weight of the curse is starting to really weigh on Zealots. As the middle lane's being pushed in, forts have been opened up all across the map here, and now it's about to keep wall. But still, Zealots with that fight still mitigate what they could have had to deal with, which may have been a lost keep.
I mean, they got two heroes, so it was a 2-for-2 trade, and it looked really as if Zealots would just lose heroes on the retreat. That was well played by them. And Mopsio with a great mosh pit here. I also loved the cleanse that we saw from Rhaegar on ETC immediately, so that any kind of stun attempt, an attempt to drop the mosh pit, could not work out here for them. So good job. Could have been even a bit cleaner if they didn't lose 2 heroes and maybe even drop a 3rd on the side of Tricked, but overall I was pretty afraid for them as they were attempting to move back since Tricked already poked them down very low.
Well, Tricked looking to open up this bottom side, work towards the Giants as well, as they are all stationed in this bottom right corner of the map. Mopsio will safely clear out the experience, but this may be a trap they have to watch out for as Rimmer holds the bush here.
Yeah, no, talking about holding things, we have the lead and experience that's being held by the Zealots right now, which is actually pretty impressive if you think about this. There's a curse that just dropped for Tricked, they dropped the keeps, and still when it comes to experience, it's the Zealots that are slightly ahead. You would expect them to be behind at this point, and by a significant margin, but that's actually not the case. Thanks to Abatha and also Dehaka, they find themselves in a spot where they are moving towards the level 16 talent a bit faster.
Power of globals, man. 16 is about to hit for Zealots to be able to get that here with the top lane pushing in as well as the middle. They'll have Abatha soak the bottom side. Will they be able to get 16 before the next tribute spawns? If it doesn't spawn in the next couple of seconds here, Tricked Esport will be able to answer back themselves and move towards their own 16.
I mean, one way or another, I would expect the 16 versus 16 fight for the tribute. I don't think that Tricked is going to need a lot of time to hit their own talent. Rammer Baller here for a second in trouble. I don't think they are going to follow this up just yet. Dehaka not using his ult or anything just yet, just activating his trade, and that's enough for him to stay alive for now. But the 16 talents are there, and Zealots is at least for a moment looking to see if they can maybe capitalize on it by forcing something. 16 talent also important on the side of Abatha, who went into adrenaline boost. Doesn't really need to go for the slow here and just wants to help heroes to either chase or move out of fights.
Now, Tricked in the middle is looking for a fight, and Make just gets completely penalized for being there, gets low on health, and Abatha's been working on the top lane and the bottom lane this entire time. So Tricked probably has 1 or 2 more fights they can try to force here before they have to go back and defend that experience that is available for them. Going in, Make he sees Mopsio, but he'll power slide out.
Mopsio with really good positioning in a lot of these fights. He was known to be one of the aggressive tanks in Europe, and that was oftentimes his downfall. But I like so far a lot what he's been showcasing in this game here. Definitely benefiting from all that practice that they're getting as one of the HGC teams now. Already, the ult on Dehaka used as a flank, but he doesn't get the isolation in here. Big problem on the side of Zarmany now. The pokes continuing from Trick. Nice toxic nests, by the way, from Shad in the meantime, making it extremely difficult for Trick to move around the tribute spot.
And look at the top left. That entire wave is finally pushed in. It's moving in towards the keep. Trick is just looking for this tribute. Mopsio maybe wants to move in here and stop it. He does get the knockback, while Rimmer's in the front side trying to hold off.
Nah, mosh pit attempt, but interrupted. Lucky actually for Mopsio here. At this point, Rampaket is low, dropped the Ancestral before, but Genji takes him down with the Dragon Blade, slicing and dicing, getting the kill, trying to get another one, as everyone on the side of the Zealots is incredibly low at this point and just trying to rush away.
But so is Tricked Esport. A few of them are low, Nape's trying to tap them off, should get the wave of light soon.
Yeah, that mosh pit was, I think for him it was really lucky that he got interrupted before the mosh pit got through, because he literally captured nobody in that thing. Everyone immediately moved away as he was sliding in, and if that mosh pit goes through, you can bet that it will be interrupted within a second, and then it's on the full cooldown. But now Zealots still have mosh pit available, so they can use it in the next fight.
Well, Zealots needing 1 more tribute for the curse is going to be forced to move in and grab their boss. As Trick Esports grabs the boss from the bottom left, this was notified to them because of the nest revealing that Trick Esport had ran down towards that boss. So safe play by them, get that top lane pushing on in, and if left uncontested, it will move in towards the keep because the minions did break the wall.
Yeah, that's one of those awkward situations now where both of the teams have taken a boss and both of them are like, nah,
what do we do?
If we push in with that, can we really get the core? Probably not, so we have to defend, since if we don't, the keep is going to fall, and it might still actually. The one thing that Trick does is, both of the teams actually, they take their Siege Giants so that they have another element that helps defending against the boss.
And the boss.
Not quite. Siege Giants just walk past. Feels bad, man.
It's okay. They're going to go for the next keep. That's their plan here. Going for the Mission Impossible. This keep is taking a decent amount of damage,
That
man.
keep is gone.
Is
They
it
actually
dead?
sacrifice it. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yep, there it goes. Continues to be shot at. And they give it up because they want to move this tribute. They know the curse will go over to Zealots if they give it away. Feels like they maybe could have afforded to leave one person there, but decide not to do so. And the keep, it does fall.
The ETC flank from behind. Oh my god, if he gets that mosh pit, that would be
He's looking for it.
disaster. He's looking for it, doesn't quite get it. Can slide now, does it. It's party time. And he is able to hit at least 2, but Crosby moves in with a wave of force and interrupts it eventually. The kill against Rhaegar is the second as Vala has already fallen with the main damage dealer gone. The Zealots are currently finding themselves in a losing battle as Tricked Esports takes control over another tribute and will challenge this one through.
He gets some mosh, but it's too late. Grippo was already dead on the... Vala was already dead. We had Shad use the Ultimate Evolution clone to jump on top of Rhaegar to help out with the healing to keep him alive. And Vala being dead completely misses out on the opportunity they were going for. And so Tricked Esports finding the kill, gets the tribute, and has a massive wave in the middle to push in and work towards the keep.
Yeah, this is an insane wave. They lost the keep at the top lane, but this is definitely making up for it. It's an easy keep, and the question is, are they going to go further? It's 15 seconds until Rhaegar is back. I don't think you can force the core here, especially with the Zealots playing rather passive. But if they get a kill, then they could definitely turn this around. But Mobsio plays this is a bit safer and moves out immediately. But they have taken the lead in experience, and this is actually another good tribute for them since they can take the earlier position and maybe now force the course onto the Zealots. And if that's the case, the Zealots are very likely to at least lose the second keep.
Well, the Zealots are coming in here hoping to fight back. There will be one little nest there that will slow it down. The Haga comes on the side. He has a hat as well. Can he hit a dragon on an important target? Isolation hits Sonya.
Sonya is being hit by it, but so far no additional pressure on her. And now it's time to fight with the clone already in again. Moshpit is still on cooldown, so is Ancestral. The clone is down, but so is Sonya. Sonya dead, the Divine Shield, the Blessed Shield coming out a little bit too late. And Tricked is moving away. They could be hit by another curse here. And Knappe is completely isolated and gets taken out.
This is going to be the curse here, and they have 3 catapults in the top lane. They can start pushing forward and making moves for a core.
Yeah, and they look very... I mean, I am really surprised how this fight went. Sonya did not get a Divine Shield, didn't get anything here, and that was a massive problem. With Sonya just simply dying and all of a sudden Knappe being very much alone on the top lane, this is just a cleanup job. The Zealots are moving in, and what looked like Tricked getting the control of the game ends up with the Zealots moving straight for the core with a level 20 advantage in a 5 versus 2 scenario.
That's right, and they're going to go ahead and start breaking through the shields here. Sonya's up in 10 seconds, so is Uther, but already it's down to 60. Maka's trying to buy time on the Genji, but he gets locked down by a power slide into a mosh pit, and they easily deal with him. Zealots come out against Tricked Esports, and they get the first win of the series.
Wow.
Wow.
That was a pretty swift ending to something that... I mean, there was a huge build-up, and then at the end, one tribute fight decided the game in favor of the Zealots. And it was a weird fight, to be honest. That was not quite what I expected. Position was better for Tricked, since they were there faster. The Haka moved in from behind, and then all of a sudden, in all the confusion, Sonya going in a little bit too deep, Uther not ready for the Divine Shield. He isn't able to save her. First hero falls. They all try to move away. And it was so awkward because it was a really, really bad fight for the Zealots. They didn't have Ancestral ready when the fight started. They didn't have the Mosh Pit ready. Most of their important cooldowns or heroics were on cooldown. So this should have been a fight that Tricked walked away with. But nope, the exact opposite happens. And then they core.
Yeah, I was watching Sonya the entire time in that fight, and she was just beelining for that back line, being in a 4v1. And it was as if she thought she had Ignore Pain or the Divine Shield coming. So it was really weird to see that Divine Shield not being pulled off. The moment Sonya falls apart, everyone from Trick tried to leave, Nape gets picked off, and Zealots just grabbed the easy victory from the keep dying earlier. So big victory for Zealots, but can they keep it up in this best of 5?
I think they actually played really well in the game, and overall I was pretty impressed. We saw some strong performance from Trick coming in the series yesterday, and today Zealots, I actually had the advantage for Trick towards the end of the game, but overall I think the way that the Zealots always kept themselves in experience range and also forced structures down was pretty impressive. So comparing that to what they showed in the first part of Phase 2, I really like their style. So I think Trick needs to step it up if they want to take this. This is, as I said, I don't think this is going to be an easy series for them, and that first game already indicated that.
Well, if it's reminiscent of anything we saw yesterday, there was a game or two we saw Team Good Guys taking Trick Esports to the brink, but Trick did step it up and start to get us points where they were able to really take a lead moving forward. So we'll see if they dive deep and get that brought back here, especially against the Zealots here. I am kind of worrying where they want to go for the next battleground. I mean, we've seen them on Infernal Shrines a lot of times when they're trying to get a victory, but we haven't seen them on BOE, which is one of the favorite places that they run to. They seem to really love playing that area.
Yeah, BOE I think is a really fun map to watch at this point as well. The constant poke that you have. For me, what I really want to see is if in the European HGC games today we are going to see Garrosh. This is probably one of the things that I'm watching out for the most. Since yesterday I was a bit surprised how heavy North America prioritized Garrosh compared to Europe, where we only saw him once. And we had our video with Garrosh where a lot of the pros were voicing their opinion, and on the European side, a lot of the players said that at the beginning they thought that Garrosh was extremely strong and they still think he has his place, but they were also saying that he's easy to counter with any kind of displacement strategies that you might have in ETC, for example, sliding in, pushing him back, that just the lack of mobility is one of the biggest problems that the hero has. So for me, it's still one of those things that I'm waiting for. Are we going to see Garrosh today in this series after Fnatic and Dignitas didn't use him even once in their best of 5?
Yeah, I mean, we saw Trick Esports ban him out, what, twice yesterday in their series, and they never moved into picking him up. I wouldn't mind seeing exactly why they think he is so strong and why he should be banned out. But yeah, mobility seems to be a real big issue with him, especially when you're thinking about the counter tanks, ETC, a Nubrak. If you're able to throw them, they're able to escape in the fight pretty easily. So wouldn't mind seeing those pickups as well, seeing how the ban phases go forward. Maybe Garrosh could be a surprise last pick on the tanks. But I think that's one of the issues right now, is tanks are actually getting picked up in the first couple of rotations right now. So you're able to get those tanks that you would normally want to have. If Garrosh is unable to get down to that spot where he can be very effective, it can be quite worrisome for the team. Now, let's go ahead and actually watch the video that Keldor was talking about earlier. Our pros weigh in on how strong Garrosh could be.
Victory or death.
I feel like Garrosh is gonna be seen a lot in HGC. I feel like the hero is really strong, kind of like Stitches in the sense that he has like a pull mechanic.
If you know how to punish other people when they step a bit too far or try to kill your carries or something, then you're gonna get a ton of value of him.
Garrosh is actually really tanky as well, which is something, like, I think the hero actually with his armor, like with his trait, is actually insane. Like, he's crazy hard to kill.
We liked him a lot at the beginning, but over time I think we're favoring a little bit less. I think we've kind of pinpointed some of his weaknesses where he's a little bit easier to kite and it's hard for him to escape if he ends up in a bad situation, so we're a little bit more worried about drafting him.
I think Garrosh plays kind of similar to Stitches in a sense that he's a tank that can really punish positioning, but his teamfight can be pretty weak, and I think his teamfight is even weaker than Stitches, so I think he's definitely a top tier tank, but I wouldn't say he's better than, you know, the likes of like an Anub or Stitches, tanks like that.
To counter Garrosh, I think the absolute strongest pick is Melthael. He completely destroys Garrosh. And another pick that really punishes Garrosh is ETC, and otherwise it's like Force Wall, Entomb, Holy Ground, all these displacement abilities that kind of doesn't let him run back, punishes him super hard because he doesn't have any mobility whatsoever.
Bring it on!
Always lovely to hear from our pros and what they think of the initial heroes coming out, and you can continue to expect those type of videos whenever new heroes do come to the HGC, as we would love for you to get as much insight as you can. The show is about enjoying the pro players playing, but also learning about the game so you can play it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, especially when we're looking at Dignitas versus Fnatic earlier, there's a lot of what you can learn from a team perspective on how to approach a map and also how to identify what a composition excels at and where the weaknesses lie, so you try and exploit the weakness in your opponent's composition. But for now, with the series here, we had a pretty good start for the Zealots, and now tricked the last time, one without dropping a single map, so keep that in mind. This is already setting a completely different pace to what they experienced in part 1 of Phase 2. And this is one of the games that for them is actually important to win, since Tricked is heading into the series as the favorite, and they're currently also holding the second spot in the standings. So for Zealots to come out swinging here must feel a bit odd to them.
I mean, our 4th series into the weekend so far in Europe, and it's looking making it even more competitive than it's ever been, which is crazy to say. Let's go ahead and start game number 2 between Trick Esport and the Zealots, as we'll be going to Dragonshire. This